Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you can't tell, we got the Project Freedom logo up behind us. No longer do we have to deal with the green screen. No longer do you have to be bored to tears. This is all great news. And what better way to launch off the new studio than for me to give you a little background on what this whole thing means, how you can one day also be your own boss if you're not already, and how I got to be sitting here in this chair owning an Amazon business that now does 7 figures in sales per year. Something I'm very proud of, and at the same time, it's something that did not happen overnight. And what I want to encourage you on is I am no rocket science. In fact, I am not a very intelligent person. Just ask my wife. She could tell you some pretty humiliating stories, and just ask Nick, the guy who works with me. He could also tell you some things. So I'm not anyone special. So with that being said, listen to me talk. I can't even form a sentence right now. That should be encouraging to you. If I can do it, you can do it. So what we're going to do is I'm going to give you a little bit of the background of my story, the mental space I had to get in to get to where I'm at, and the choices and decisions, basically everything that went into how I developed a 7-figure wholesale business on Amazon, and what I believe you will need to do as well to get into the mental space to do the same thing. So let's get right into this video. So 4 years ago is when I first dipped my toes into the whole Amazon game, but far before that, I always was working toward financial freedom with the end goal of being my own boss, running the day the way that I'd like it to be, all this, the selfish motives that pretty much every entrepreneur dreams of or wannabe entrepreneur dreams of, and that was totally me. Now, what I learned through this whole thing is that there's the whole aspect of being your own boss, but more importantly is the freedom aspect, because there are several business models out there that exist where you can be your own boss, but you will not have the freedom. You won't have the ability to leave in the middle of the day and go do something that might require your time and let your business just take care of itself. There's very few business models that allow you to do that, and Amazon FBA is actually one that does allow you to do this if you set the business up correctly. And that's what I learned over the past 4 years. Now, initially, I thought that getting started on Amazon was going to be a somewhat easy process. That was how it was pitched. I'm sure you've seen a lot of the videos out there with gurus on YouTube making it seem like anybody can do this. Now, anybody can do it, but the fact of the matter is there was a lot of work that went into it, and there was a lot of struggle. So I first started with the private label business model. I invested about $6,000 into this inventory of manual coffee grinders, and my goal was to turn that into a multi-million-dollar business, quit my job, and then live happily ever after. And unfortunately, that didn't happen. It took about 6 months for my product to get from China all the way to the US. I got very impatient during this period of time because I really wanted to be out of my job doing Amazon full time. So during the meantime, as I was waiting for my inventory, I was learning everything I could about how to launch the product effectively. I was learning how to sell using the retail arbitrage business model. I was learning everything I could about just pretty much e-commerce in general, and namely Amazon. So once my inventory got here from China, I immediately had this launch plan scheduled. It went exactly according to plan. Now, the problem was I didn't make much money. In fact, when you took all the cost of the course, the cost of all the photography, everything, I pretty much broke even, which after 6 to 8 months of work, that was very discouraging. And I was this close to just giving up, because think about it, all that time you come up empty-handed. Not ideal at all. So from there, I decided to double down and continue learning and developing skills. Now, it clearly wasn't a good use of my time up to that point. If you would have asked any of my friends, they would have thought I was absolutely insane. And truly, I don't know what I was thinking at times when I look back on this, but I just had this goal. You know what? If I have to work for the rest of my life on this, I'm going to make it happen. And I don't really care about the results. Screw it. come this far, haven't made much money. Let's just keep doing it, see what happens, right? So my goal from there was to use retail arbitrage, whether that was on Amazon or eBay, to begin making money to make me feel like I was at least accomplishing something. And then I was going to take that money and reinvest it in private labels with the goal of finding a differentiated product where I could develop a brand and then build this business that would one day set me free from this corporate job that just kept me miserable for a very long time. But what ended up happening was, as I was doing retail arbitrage, I realized, okay, hey, this driving around and picking up inventory from stores is not very economical. I've been spending all my free time doing this. It's not really good use of my time. I mean, if we look at the hourly rate that I'm getting out of this, it's not horrible, but I might as well just be working overtime at my job and I'd be accomplishing the same thing. So that's when I began to think, well, hey, what would it look like if I got into the wholesale business where I was able to buy these same types of products from a distributor of that product, getting a retail license and then having it all shipped to me so I didn't have to go out and find it in stores. And then from there, I could simply package it up and send it to Amazon. Or better yet, I could have my wholesaler send it straight to Amazon for me. What if I could do that? Well, that was what I decided, you know what? This is the next step for me. So naturally, the next step from there was to completely abandon the retail arbitrage business, which saved me a lot of time because I was no longer driving all over the state of Ohio. My truck has thanked me for that. And then what I did was I zeroed in on the wholesale business with the same goal of generating cash from that business to then feed into private labels that then one day would make me a rich man and I could finally quit my job and finally be my own boss and finally be free. But in all reality, that's not what happened. In fact, what happened was as soon as I got into the wholesale business, I found that it was not as simple as just getting a retail license and then Googling a distributor. It is actually much harder to find a good distributor than that. It took me a few months before I was able to land a distributor, and then I placed my first order. Now, on that first order, I learned a very valuable lesson about how I work personally. What happened was I placed this order. I spent about $1,000 on inventory. I sent the inventory to Amazon, sold through it, made about $200, had the money back into my bank account within like a month's period of time. And what I realized is that the dopamine feedback loop was much quicker than the private label thing that I had done earlier in the year, right? Because it was 6 to 8 months before I got my money back doing that. Whereas here it was a month and I had my money back and I made a profit. So it was worth my time. So naturally from there, the next thing I had to do was just buy more inventory, find more listings, and just continue to grow that so I could have more cash coming in and then maybe one day do the private label thing. But as time went on, I completely forgot about doing the private label thing because I was making enough money doing this wholesale thing. And I happened upon a business model that worked out well for me. In fact, I got real lucky because I got a distributor that gave me 45-day or 30-day terms, and they allowed me to pay off my account with a credit card. And that gave me essentially 75 days to then buy inventory from them, send it to Amazon, sell through it, and then have that money back into my bank account and then pay my bill before it was even due. This was pretty foundational for me, a discovery that I had made, because essentially I could buy unlimited inventory as long as I could sell through it somewhat quickly. And that's exactly what I did. I started being pretty risky with it, actually. I would buy more inventory than I had cash. And I just used the accounts. I'd use credit cards. I'd send it to Amazon. I'd sell through it. And as I expected, I'd have that cash back in my account. And I went from making a couple $1,000s a month to $10,000 a month. And that was a mile marker for me, because at that point, that was December 2018 where I made my first, October 2018 where I made my first $10,000 in a month. Mind you, I started the wholesale thing in June of 2018. So that was very quick. It escalated fast, much quicker than I thought it would. And From there, it was just 6 months later that I was able to finally quit my job. Best day of my life. But actually, it actually wasn't. But it was still a pretty good day. Now, the problem was that I had started the Amazon business with the goal of getting into private label. Now, the reason private label is so attractive to everyone and why most people never go down the rabbit hole of wholesale is because in private label, you don't have to touch the product. You create a label that has the FNSKU barcode on it. You have your manufacturer send it directly to an Amazon warehouse, and you never have to touch it. You can hang it on your yacht. You can sip on martinis or pina coladas, whatever it is that you like. Do that all day long as the sun sets. You're making sales. Whereas in wholesale, what I was doing is I was sitting at home labeling products all day, staring at a wall, which wasn't very exciting. In fact, I jumped out of the frying pan of work into the fire of me sitting inside of a storage unit alone for 8 hours a day, putting labels on products. It wasn't quite the freedom that I was looking for, unfortunately. So this is why wholesale gets a bad rap and most people ignore it altogether. Now, if you have spent time researching wholesale, you might be asking, Rob, why would you have the product come to you? Why not just work with distributors that send it straight to Amazon? Well, that's a great question. The problem is that most good distributors do not do that for you, especially ones that offer the 30-day terms that allow you to take advantage of that 75-day credit cycle to scale your business fast. And that's exactly what I was doing. So I wasn't able to have the distributor send the product to Amazon on my behalf. I had to do it myself. Now, if you can find a distributor that does that, that's ideal. But most likely when you commit to this business model, you will be touching the product yourself and you will be labeling things yourself, polybagging things yourself, and then repackaging it and sending it to Amazon. Now, here's the thing. My story did not end there. Thank goodness. Thank goodness, because I don't know if I could do that forever either. What ended up happening is I began to hire college students to come and work for me, and that worked out great. Now, at first, I did not like the idea of handing over the keys to college kids to label my inventory when there was a high chance they could screw something up, something could get sent to Amazon wrong, I could lose inventory. There's a million reasons why you wouldn't want to hire somebody, but I had to do that if I wanted to achieve any kind of freedom, right? So hiring people is key to achieving freedom inside of the wholesale business model. Otherwise, you'll be trapped working inside of your business constantly, not able to grow it instead of working on the business, being able to scale. And that's exactly where I found myself. And that's exactly the decision that I made that was, once again, pivotal to the success of the business and my ability to have some kind of freedom outside of the business. And then from there, we ended up getting a warehouse, which blew things up even more. Now, the problem was I was still doing a lot of the higher level management, not only the workers, but the shipping plans, buying the inventory, printing off the labels, organizing things, all that stuff. And after a certain point, that was taking up a lot of time. And if I wanted to go on vacation, well, that meant that I had to shut down the business and leave. I couldn't have it running while I was gone, and that's a problem. So the next step then from there was to hire a full-time manager, which we did in June. I hired Nick. You will be meeting him at some point. Awesome guy. Love him. He's going to be my brother-in-law soon. So hopefully I don't have to fire you, Nick. Just kidding. But anyway, Nick does great. He's better than me. So the crazy thing is after hiring Nick, we actually tripled our business just in a few months. And that's simply because Nick took all the work off of my plate pretty much immediately, allowing me to just find more distributors, more products, more business, and just blow the business up from there. Now that we had 2 full-time people who are in management who cared about the success of this business. That was the only way that I was able to achieve any kind of freedom. And it is possible for anybody watching this channel to achieve freedom inside the wholesale business model. You just have to be okay with diving in headfirst, learning and solving problems along the way. Because trust me, what'll happen is you'll get into this, you'll get miserable, but the difference between working for yourself and working for someone else is you always have the ability to solve problems for yourself and make decisions. You don't always get that luxury when you're working a 9-to-5 job in the corporate world. You don't always have the ability to hire somebody to do a task that you know could be done so that you could be doing something else that's more valuable. You can do that when you're a businessman. So I encourage you, if you're watching this video, if you're on the fence about Amazon or whatever business it is, you're scared about hiring people, don't worry about that right now. Just worry about making a sale, getting in, starting, and pushing yourself to learn skills and grow, because over time you will grow, and guess what? It'll happen quicker than you think. It sure happened quicker than I thought for me, because just 4 years ago, I didn't have this thing created. Didn't have an Amazon business, had no idea that I'd be sitting here today with a bunch of employees, with a good brother-in-law friend who's a full-time employee who works with me. We have a great time throughout the day. We get to accomplish things together and have a vision for what the future could look like here. If you're watching, this is completely possible for you too. You just have to sit down, set your mind to it, and not get caught up in the ups and downs in the short run, but keep your eyes steady, focused on the future, on what it could be, because trust me, it can be that. Just put your head down and work toward it, and soon enough, it'll be there.